As we've said before, when designing enterprise applications, we need to obtain the best reports and statistics that'll help us make informed decisions. The query object allows creating eye-catching, dynamic queries in a simple and intuitive manner. This increases and enhances the value of the information received from the database. Let's see some examples. The travel agency asks us to be able to chart the number of tourist attractions in each country and city. So, we'll create a new object. Within the reporting category, we select the query object type, and we'll call it attractions per country city. In this sector of the structure, we'll define the query. Let's analyze the meaning of the components shown. In the attributes node, we must mention precisely all the attributes that will be included in the query. This statement is simple and made in flat list format. But in addition to attributes, here it's also possible to define functions, such as count, sum, average, maximum, and minimum. And it's also possible to include nested functions. In this example, we want to chart the number of attractions per country and city. So, we'll add the attributes country name, city name, and state the formula count attraction ID. If necessary, before applying a function, it's possible to group by some attribute, which allows viewing the data in different ways. The syntax would be as follows. Name of the function, attribute to which it's applied, and the set of attributes by which you want to define that grouping. In this description column is the tag that will be used to display the attributes in the result of the query. So, in the result of the formula count attraction ID, we'll enter the description attractions quantity. If we also edit the value of this property and select true, we can see the results of the formula as a percentage. This option is available if we right-click and select Show as Percentage. Okay, let's move on to the parameters. The query can receive parameters, and it's here where we must declare them and set their properties. The name, description, and data type will be defined. Also, if it's based on a domain or attribute, if it's a collection, and the predetermined value if applicable. Let's continue with the filters. The filters to be applied in the query will be specified here. We can define a group of filters, which by default are linked by the connector AND, but we can also use the OR connector. Let's quickly see some examples of the syntax used when declaring these filters or conditions. Country ID greater than or equal to 3. This would be the filter to declare if we only want to see the number of attractions in the cities of the countries whose ID is greater than or equal to 3. Let's see another example. Country ID is a list of values to query. In this case, the countries with ID 1, 2, and 3. Another example is country name, which is a list of values to query, for example, the cities of France, Italy, China, and the United States. In this example, we'll define the query for the cities of France and China. So we type Lastly, in the Order By section, we can indicate the desired order to view the result of the query. In this case, we'll configure the query to be ordered by country name. So we state this order. Okay, we've completed the definition of our query, so we save the changes. Now take a look at this SQL statement tab. Here we can see the SQL statements that will be used to solve the query that we've created. Next to it, in the Preview tab, we can preview the result of the query. The format of this preview can be changed from the query object properties. In this type property, we can select card, chart, pivot table, or table. So at this point, we've created our query and we've seen the previews available for the result. To actually view this query at runtime, it'll be necessary to define a web panel and use the query viewer control that will be in charge of showing the result of the query in some of the ways that we've tried. So let's create this web panel. And from the toolbox, we'll drag the query viewer control. We'll edit the properties of this control. And in the object property, we'll enter the name of the query object to display. In this case, attractions per country city. Then, to define the output, we need to configure the properties below the output group. So, in the type property, we select the chart option. Next, we can choose the type of chart. We'll choose pyramid chart. And we'll enter a name for it, attractions per country and city. We can already run our app, so we press F5. We select the web panel and see the chart at runtime. Although we're not going to implement it in this video, it could happen that the agency requests some modifications because they want to be able to view in the chart the number of tourist attractions in the cities of a certain country that doesn't necessarily have to be France or China, but some other country selected by the end user. To meet these other requirements, we would have to configure the query object to receive country ID as a parameter and achieve this behavior at runtime. Let's see another example. The travel agency wants to be able to see in a pivot table all the tourist attractions of each country and city grouped by category. To this end, we create a new query object and call it Query Attractions. As we said, we want to see the tourist attractions grouped by category for each city in each country. So, we must add the attributes we want to view in the order in which we want to define that grouping. So, first we type country name, city name, category name, and attraction name. Also, the query should be ordered by country and city name, so in the order by sector, we enter country name and city name. We'll save this query. And we'll create a new web panel. From the toolbox, we drag the query viewer control, and in the object property, we associate the query object that we've just created. To configure the output format, we open the type property, and we'll choose pivot table, and we press F5. One of the characteristics of this output type is that we can change the place of the columns, for example, and the information will be regrouped accordingly. So for example, we'll switch the columns city name and category name. And we can see that the information has been regrouped according to this new order. Let's return to the original order. Note also that for each column, we can sort the information in ascending or descending order and show or hide different data. For example, we'll sort the column category name in descending order, and we'll also remove the subtotals. Also note that from here, we can export the query to different formats. For example, let's export it to Excel. Lastly, we update the changes in GeneXus server.